The other advantage we have is we have a lot of pasture close to the yard, so I don't have to have them, just on a quarter of ground, and then I'm trucking my pairs out or whatever. There are some structural advantages I have as far as access to pasture near the place that makes it work for us. I know that not everybody has the same situation, but for us it works.
It's basically treeless. We don't have any trees out there. We don't have any shelter belts or anything. It is quite rolling, some pretty steep sloped areas out in there. So there's usually, even whatever kind of wind there are areas where any part of the herd or a cow wants to go to get out of the wind, if that's the only problem that she's really having, to find secluded spots like that.
Or we have one calving pasture where we calve our heifers and our 3-year-olds. There is like no protection at all. The other places we calve, there is a tree line, a tree grove that they can get behind, but otherwise it's pretty much the backside of a hill. That's pretty much all they get for protection.
When the weather's bad, they have the ability to go back in around a shelter belt to get out of the wind. If we get a 2 or 3 day blizzard, I'll feed them hay around the shelter belt, and then they go back out afterwards again.
Calving behind trees versus tall grass can really vary with the situation. I would prefer the tall grass myself because you have those individual little spots that make for an ideal calving environment. That calf has individuality because they're away from the other cows, where if they were behind trees, they would tend to be more bunched up. It leaves more room for confusion and hurt calves and lost calves. And so I would actually prefer them out in tall grass where they can have that confinement, if you will.
A lot of our ranch has protection in different, whether it's trees or canyons, but even in May, it's nice to have protection from cold wind and stuff. But we can calve, since we calve in May, we can calve in a lot of different places on our ranch.
It's really good because you got a lot of your standing native grasses, your big blue stems and stuff, Indian grasses. And so you do have protection there.
The land, we have just rolling hills type of ground, a couple buttes on it, just a short little creek, and not many trees, so it's pretty open ground.
Every pasture we've got is ideal, whether it's rough, creek, hilly, protection, or pretty flat. I've calved in all of them, and you think just because you're on a flat pasture in the first part of May, and if you did get caught in a blow, they're going to pile up in the corner and yada yada yada, all of that. You do, but within 2 days it's all past, and you've got sunshine and green grass coming, and those cows, they adapt. They know what's happening.
Okay, it's February 18th today. Our cows are actually bale grazing about a mile from the place. And right now the consistency of the snow is such where it's crusted, where we're not able to graze through our stockpiled pasture on a day when it's not above freezing. So it looks like this weekend we'll be able to turn out and go back to just grazing grass. So this year we've fed for about 15 days at this point.
Today is February 18th, and my cattle are out on corn stalks. They do have some area that they can come around to get out of the elements from the winds and storms, where they can get around the south side of the yard. But they've been on cover crop corn stalks and actually grazing standing corn since probably, it was I believe right before Thanksgiving, when they got pulled off of pasture and turned into corn for grazing, standing corn, and then some cover crop.
It's February 18th. You're wanting to know where my cows are. Where are they tonight? Well, we're still in the middle of winter. We're still feeding. We're on full feed. The cows can't venture out to the pasture because their bellies are going to drag in the snow.
It is February 18th, and the cows are on a vacant farmyard that is surrounded by corn and soybean fields. So there's some draws through there that have grass. There's some trees, and they have a variety of things. And then we are feeding them, maybe every other day, maybe every third day, a little bit of some of the cover crop, which was oats and field pea that we rolled up into some bales, run it through the processor, and we have rural water and big tank out there. So those cows could, if I wanted to go to the stock show in Rapid City for 3 or 4 days, I wouldn't worry a bit about them.
It's February 18th today. I'm feeding, they have the calves on them yet. Calves are probably 500 pounds. I'm feeding 20 pounds of corn per pair per day, plus 20 pounds of hay. Works out to about $1 for the corn and about 60 cents for the hay. The other bunch, the younger ones, I just started bale grazing them yesterday. The first calf heifers and the bred heifers have been out on a warm season cover crop mix this winter. And the warm season mix is a mixture of Sudan grass, pearl millet, German hay millet, turnips, radishes, dwarf Essex rapeseed, and soybean. They've been out grazing in the field.
It's February 18th, and my cows aren't where I would like them to be today because we've got so much snow and residual ice from it being so wet last year that we're having to feed. Our typical operation is that we're out grazing this time of the year. Don't want the livestock close to the building sites, and for the most part they aren't close to the building sites, but we are having to feed, and that definitely hooks into the economics, profitability for the year, but not near as much as if we were getting calves now or going to in a month and we had to feed through this kind of weather plus lactation. So it's still a win, it's just not the win we like.
So it's February 19th, and today our cows are in what we call the West Calving Pasture. So historically we calved in that pasture, but we don't now. We winter in there because our cows calve in May. And it's got deep canyons and badlands with lots of cedar trees. These cows are walking steep hills, going up steep trails, hanging out in dense groves of cedar trees, and they're gaining weight and they're looking good. They went into a fresh pasture 10 days ago or 8 days ago.
Yeah, it's February 19th, and my cattle are grazing out on corn stalks right now. I actually just weaned calves earlier this week from last year. They're about 9 months old, and so they'll be eating a little bit of hay here for a few weeks, and I'll be selling them in time for the spring flush. And my cows get to recover for the next 3 months and kind of eat all they want to as the weather warms, and hopefully they will be in good condition by the time we hit 1st of May, which is a part of the reason I've delayed calving now, is it gives them a better chance to get in good condition just on grazed forage.
Today is February 19th, and today my cows are bale grazing out in a hayfield with their calves at the side. The calves are butterball fat. The cows are fat except the ones that aren't. And the ones that aren't will get sold. So that's kind of how our program works.
On February 19th, my cows are all home just laying around and eating some hay, just being happy.
It's February 19th. We've got our threes and old cows on corn stalks, grazing. spike 'em, bale of hay here and there. Big bunch of cows. They're grazing, all native grass, corn stalks, stuff we came into middle of February. But it snowed under. We're feeding. We feed, we're feeding on a hot wire, silage, ground hay, corn. I know corn's the devil, but corn's cheap. On the other side of it, we got a mixed ration. With that mixed ration, I'm a cheap ass. We feed like 80–85%. I want her to leave, walk out, go clean up something, come back.
Today's February 19th, and my cows are still out grazing with the calves on them. We have not weaned. We will wean in about a week and a half, but they're out grubbing on themselves. They're like I say, they're pretty thin. You can see ribs on most of them, but they'll be in good shape when they calve.
It's February 20th. Our cows are 3.5 miles from home. They're grazing grass and getting a little protein, and they're doing good.
It's February 20th. My cows are out in the pasture, and we are supplementing some feed right now just because we have a hard snowpack, but they are still grazing, and they're in good shape, and we're not worried about them at all. We still have 2 months before they start calving, and hoping it opens up by then, and we'll be done feeding. So
February 20th, right now, we sold all of our cows in 2013 on account of the drought, and now we're taking in cattle for 2 young guys. They're into March and April calving. They're slowly moving back. I'm convincing them to move to May and June, and it's taken a while, but now we'll start about the 1st of April. So right now we are feeding.
It's February 19th and our cattle are hungry. We've got really heavy snow cover where we're at right now in most places. You know, normally people ask me, when do you plan on feeding your cattle? And standard response has been, we don't plan on feeding them. Are we prepared to? Yes. Do we have enough carrying capacity and grass and crop residue where we don't have to? Yes. But in a winter like this, unfortunately, the snow is deep enough, and you know, the grazing just isn't there. So Luke has had to acquire some stored forages and feed more than we historically do.
It's February 20th. My cows are out grazing today, and I'm not worried about them.
So right now it's February 20th, and this morning when I went out it was 0 outside. My cows are out there laying around chewing their cud, and if I hadn't been coming to this deal in faith today, I'd have been having coffee by the firewood stove. And then I get to do that in March now, since I never used to get to do that. Yeah.